Brothers and sisters, if God asked a group of Ukrainian refugee children in Poland today, "What would you like me to give you?" I suspect he would get responses like, "I want my daddy back. I want to go back to my home. I want to see my grandparents." Depending on where one sits in life will determine how one would respond to such an offer. Starving children in Africa would probably ask for food and water. Children dying of cancer would seek a cure, and the homeless would ask for a roof over their heads. We can see that in all the specific cases that I have chosen, those asked that same question responded with a request for the most basic of needs. This should not come as a surprise. In the 1940s and 50s, Abraham Maslow, an American psychologist, developed his hierarchy of needs. The hierarchy was based on a theory of psychological health that claimed we fulfilled human needs in order of priority. Firstly, we would seek to fulfill our basic needs of food, water, and shelter. Then after that came security and safety. Once these basic needs were fulfilled, we would then seek to fulfill our psychological needs, such as intimate relationships and friendships, and then move to prestige and the feeling of accomplishment. Once we had fulfilled these needs, we would then seek self-actualization, which is effectively the achieving of one's full potential. As you just heard, though, nowhere in Maslow's theory was there any mention of God or the good of the other. It was all about what the individual needed or wanted to make their own life fulfilling. It's all about getting everything that I need and I want. It's all about the me and the I. Sadly, this is how much of the world operates today. Brothers and sisters, let us then contrast this to today's first reading from the first book of Kings. Solomon had just succeeded his father as king of Israel. God asks him, "What would you like me to give you?" He responded by asking for a heart to understand how to discern between good and evil. For who could govern this people of yours that is so great? Solomon could have asked to be a famous king of long memory, to live to old age, to have untold wealth, or to have all the beautiful women of the kingdom at his beck and call. But no, brothers and sisters, he sought wisdom so that he may justly rule the people of God. As we see, God gave him this gift which he needed to rule wisely. However, as Solomon's request was pleasing to God, God later gave him a whole lot more than that. As we know, Jesus tells us in the Gospels, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all other things shall be added unto you." Well, Solomon did seek the kingdom first and was given what he needed first to rule the people wisely. And then God, out of his abundance, gave him everything else. Sadly, it was this everything else that proved to be Solomon's undoing. But that's a story for another day. So, brothers and sisters, what does this all have to do with us today? Well, like Solomon, we have to be alert to what we should ask God for. And he is a generous God and really does want to supply for our needs. Most importantly, we shouldn't ask God firstly for our wants, or even so much for our earthly bodily needs, such as those described by Abraham Maslow. As Christians, we need to ask firstly for that which will cause the kingdom of God to grow both in our lives and in the lives of all of those with whom we come into contact. How then do we identify what to ask for? Well, firstly, we could start with the 7 deadly sins as a guide to discern what we should ask of God to help us grow in holiness. If we are lustful, we should ask for the gift of chastity. If we are greedy, we should ask for the gift of generosity. If we are gluttonous, we should ask for the gift of temperance. If we are envious, we should ask for the gift of kindness. If we are angry, we should ask for the gift of meekness. If we are proud, we should ask for the gift of humility. And if we are slothful, we should ask for the gift of diligence. But it's not enough just to stop sinning. We need to also look at our lives in general and identify some of our weaknesses, which are not necessarily sins. For instance, instead of asking for more years of life, we could ask for a holy death. Instead of asking for a pay rise, we could ask to be more generous. Instead of asking to be loved more, we could ask for the grace to love others more ourselves. Instead of looking for a bigger home, we could ask for the grace to help someone who has no home. And perhaps most importantly, instead of asking God to take our cross away, we should ask God for the strength to carry it. Brothers and sisters, if we seek from God these things first, before all our personal wants and desires, these things essential for our sanctification and salvation, then, as for Solomon, the Lord won't hesitate to give them to us. And then don't be surprised that in his goodness, God will also surprise us with fulfilling some of our wants, even though they may, like Solomon, be the cause of the undoing of all the good works done up to that point. On the other hand, we could choose to become like the saints and expect only that which is required for our sanctification and salvation. For it is the saints, brothers and sisters, who through their holy self-actualization turn Maslow's hierarchy of needs on its head. For in their desire to follow Jesus most perfectly, they experienced cold, hunger, all sorts of deprivation, torture, and even death for the sake of the building up of the kingdom of God. For the saints were like the man in today's gospel, who, having discovered the kingdom of God, gave up and sold all their earthly needs, wants, and desires in order to be able to purchase it at whatever price, even their earthly life. Perhaps God is asking each and every one of us to do the same.